Hi, I'm Brian Lord, Senior Vice President here at Premier Speakers Bureau, and I'm very excited to have on with us today John Ratzenberger. And of course, John is definitely well known as an actor from Cheers, from Star Wars, from Superman, from basically every Pixar movie ever.
Every Pixar movie, yeah.
And a little fact that I didn't know.
Some wood I can knock on.
Yeah, well, hopefully the next one too. You know, and one of the things I'd never heard of before is that you're the sixth most. You've been in the sixth most viewed movies ever, something like 3 trillion or something like that?
By box office receipts, of actors that have been in movies that made a lot of money, I'm number 6. It's because of, well, Pixar, all the Pixar movies, all the blockbusters, Empire Strikes Back, I was in. Superman 1, Superman 2, I was in Gandhi, A Bridge Too Far.
Oh, wow.
Before I got to Cheers, I did 28 films. In England. I lived in England for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to visit for a week and ended up staying 10 years.
Now, what's the, now I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so what was it kind of like working on the set there for Empire?
Well, for an actor with 4 lines, it's a job. So you show up, you know, you hope your car gets you there, doesn't break down. And, you know, they give you the uniform and tell you where to stand, but the magic to me is, because I'm always a big fan of the process and really the construction and how it all works and how it's all put together. But the sets and the props and the planes, that just fascinated me. But there's no way to telegraph or know how big that movie's going to be. It was the same thing with Cheers.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of guys sitting at a bar.
Yeah. Now, yeah, that's one of the interesting things. I'd ask some friends ahead of time, you know, if you're doing this interview, what would you ask? And, you know, some of the questions would be, you know, if you were just one character, if you had to pick one character to be forever, who would it be? That's one of them that came up.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I did a 2-man improvised comedy show throughout Europe for 6 years.
Wow.
We're based in London, that's where we'd start our shows, then we'd tour them through Europe. And then eventually come back to London, take a break, then put together another show. The shows themselves, we would do 10 to 15 characters a piece. In the show, there was no break. Each show was about an hour, hour and a half. But it was the characters that I created during that show of that 6 years. Some of those are my favorite characters.
Really?
Yeah, because there was one character I did just... he had a long greatcoat on, it was a trench coat, kind of ratty and tatty, and you know, a little hat askew, and there was a pillar with one of those desk bells from a hotel, and I did a half-hour show with no dialogue, just with that bell, a comedy, and it was you know, standing ovations, but to me that was just I'm a big fan of Stan Laurel, for instance, because Stan, and watching him and growing up watching him, all the comedy lives between the words, and so I tried it without the words and just do the comedy, and it does work. Wow. And another great exponent of that is Jacques Tati from Mr. Hulot's Holiday.
Oh, okay.
But that was one of the characters I would love to do again, and another character I created called Captain Cretin. Who's a nearsighted superhero who never quite found the window. When there was an emergency, he'd go, "I'll take care of it," and then he'd hit the wall and just knock himself out. But just trying to get out of the room was a chore for this guy. But I enjoyed that time. I enjoyed those characters. But in the popular culture, because I invented the character of Cliff. On Cheers, so yeah, he's a favorite. I always had to bite my lip on Cheers because I to stop myself from laughing because it was so ridiculous, and they would let me make up my own lines.
Oh, really?
Well, because I invented the character. That character came straight from me. So from time to time, Jimmy Burrows would say something like, "Hey, Rats, you know, fill in 2 minutes." And then the cameras would go and I'd fill in 2 minutes. And one of my favorite was I had all the guys in the bar around me, and I said, come here before the camera came on. I said, So that, gentlemen, is how the tractor seat was invented. Because that tells the story. That tells you everything you got to know.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the tractor seat. Why the tractor seat? You know, there's so many different levels to that, and that short phrase. That was the beauty of the character.
Yeah.
And everybody knows somebody like that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Now, I have kids from the Pixar films. Kind of, what's your favorite? What's your favorite there? What's your favorite line to say out of those?
Well, my favorite character to record is P.T. Flea, because he's so avaricious. He'd sell his grandmother,
yeah,
for a nickel, for a bottle cap probably.
Yeah.
But he's one of those characters, and you meet people like this from time to time, where you wonder if they ever sleep.
Mm.
Because they're always going after the buck and, you know, trying to make a deal and flim-flamming people. And it always cracks me up that, you know, they think that nobody else realizes it. And they're always on the go, always on the go. So, you know, P.T. Flea, one of his lines, one of my favorites, flaming death! Because when the circus falls apart, he shoots himself out of a cannon. And it shoots flames and sets himself on fire, basically.
Yeah.
And it just always cracks me up.
Yeah.
Because I actually know people like that.
But, you know, one of the things, too, I know, obviously, those are amazing things, but what you're here for, you know, is kind of as a speaker, you know,
right.
And obviously you have just these incredible stories that everyone loves to hear. And you yourself, even if you're talking about P.T. Flea there, that's a very hardworking person. You know, you started as a carpenter and have that.
Yep.
You know, when you talk to audiences, what's kind of the message that you really want to get out to them?
Well, because I know and they know and everybody in manufacturing and construction knows is that we're running out of skilled trade people. Mm-hmm. So I try not to bring sand to the beach, but I try to explain how this happened, how it happened, why it happened. And certainly it's entitlement, mm-hmm. Parents. And when I talk to women's organizations, I'll talk about this, that it's okay if your child doesn't want to go to college. Mm-hmm. It wants to be a stonemason. Yeah. And I'll go through the reasons why. Because that's what brought us to the dance. Mm-hmm. It's really people who made things or make things are that's the reason we're such a strong culture. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with actors or sports celebrities. And I know it shocks a lot of people. But it's you know, everything we think, do, and say all day long is dependent on someone's ability to put a nut and a bolt together. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we'd be sitting naked in the field right now. Yeah. I mean, I'd have a leaf on it at least. Sure. But because look, everything here. Mm-hmm. Someone showed up to work and put that thing together. But what we've done is we've stripped our society of those people. Mm-hmm. Because the 60s came along, and prior to the 60s, we honored success. Mm-hmm. The 60s, we started to honor failure. Mm-hmm. And we started making fun of the people who worked hard. Mm-hmm. So through popular media, movies, TV, we look at it and here's someone depicting a carpenter or plumber, and the movie itself, the story, makes fun of that person. So why would a child growing up seeing that depiction want to be that? Mm-hmm. They want to be the 16-year-old wise guy, you know, like the Breakfast Club, or, you know, smoking dope and chillaxing. Yeah. And that's what we honor now, and that's why we've gotten ourselves into a lot of trouble. But also there's the entitlement issue, especially, you know, with when I talk to audiences with a lot of HR people mm-hmm. and CEOs, and they recognize it because it's you'll have people showing up. A girl that I know, she showed up to an interview, fresh out of college, and told the HR person that, yeah, I'd like this job, but I need Wednesday afternoons off because that's when I get my hair done. So I explained how that happened. Mm-hmm. It's because in our society, you know, we're also a society that we honor mediocrity. We give actually awards for being mediocre now. Mm-hmm. You know, it's when I was a kid, for Little League, if you stunk, the coach say, "Whew, boy, you stink." Go look for something else to do. But now, apparently, they give you a uniform, and you're guaranteed to play. And even if you come in 11th place and never hit a ball, you're getting an award. You're getting a trophy.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid to hurt your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And that all comes out of the Woodstock ethos, with the nonsense. So it's affected us all on various different levels of how we perceive each other, competition. Well, what do you mean competition is no good? I mean, that exists in nature. I mean, one tree is competing with another tree for sunshine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the basis of growth and strength, because it just makes you better.
Yeah.
But we've taken that away. We don't keep score. I don't know if you've run into this.
Yeah.
Here, but the kids keep score.
Yeah.
But the parents like, oh no, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if my feelings weren't hurt, literally by the coach saying, hey, you stink,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have tried harder.
Yeah.
And finally made the team, the first baseman.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have kept me away from that experience, but most importantly, it gave me, and a lot of kids then, the opportunity to face an emotional crisis and work through it when you're 8 years old. And do it yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't have to have psychologists and have meetings and lay on anybody's couch. You had to, oh man, you kick a can or cry a little bit or, you know, punch a tree, and you only do that once, by the way.
It's just the one time.
It's the one time. But you get to work through it, and now, in our society, you could be 30 years old and never had to work through an emotional crisis. But then we work through it all the time. See, the concept of playing, we go outside and play, we were problem solving. That's what we did, solve problems. So again, we took that away from kids.
Yeah.
And so we've taken so much away under the guise of it's better for them, because they don't want to hurt their feelings. And that's basically all you're doing, because you're setting them up for failure later on in life.
Now, from that, I guess for our last question here, you talk a lot about rewarding success, and obviously you've been incredibly successful. Both, just somebody who was
need a couple of bucks.
I think so. That was already off camera already.
All right.
But as an actor, and then also just personally, I know you like the success of actually finishing a project, something to do with your hands. If you were to give somebody, say, these are one or two things to work towards being successful, to help make you successful, going from your background, what would you tell somebody?
Get out of your own way. Your body and your mind know exactly what to do in every situation. I don't care what it is. Your job is to get out of your way. It even goes back to Japanese Zen archery. Or even crimping a piece of paper and throw it in the wastebasket. If you don't think about that throw, you go like this, it's going in.
Yeah.
But as soon as you crumple and go, you're never going to get it in.
Yeah.
The Zen archer, it was just getting out of their own way, but they would put an arrow through a big piece of canvas and put the next arrow through the same hole repeatedly, and that's the basis of that type of archery. But I'm sure Kobe Bryant does the same thing. You just get out of your own way, and because that's where all the problems start. When you start overthinking, doubting yourself. But it's just cleaner and clearer, and it just feels so much better because somehow you always succeed. And I always take great pleasure in Winston Churchill's famous quote, which is, "Success comes from going from failure to failure with enthusiasm." And because that's how I started. Just got up on stage, no background in theater, and in front of an audience, and failed miserably. I said, okay, next time it's not going to be so bad. Yeah. And eventually, within probably a year, my partner and I, touring Europe with our comedy shows, we became the top show in the Fringe, the European Fringe. And we do standing room only and standing ovations for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
But we did it ourselves. We didn't. There was no classes involved, and nobody was doing improvised comedy. We didn't even know the word improvised. We called it making stuff up.
Well, that's great. Well, John, thank you so much. And for you event planners watching this, if you look below here, there's additional information about John and his speaking, and also make sure to subscribe to this channel for other interviews. So, John, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a pleasure.
You.
Definitely, thank you.